Did you want to go with us? You are so pretentious. A daughter-in-law isn't my family. I would never take you on a family vacation. My mother-in-law mocked me. Have you forgotten what you're staying here for? You are the housekeeper. You're supposed to be taking care of my mother. My husband smirked at the comment. You don't even work, but only want to have fun? You're too naive to think life is that easy. Haven't you grown up yet? You should at least take good care of my grandmother. Have fun. And then my husband and mother-in-law left for a 1-week trip to Bahamas. They left me and my grandmother-in-law, who was injured and needed nursing care. In addition to taking care of her, I was forced to take up all the household chores in my in-laws' house. I felt a sense of helplessness. I wasn't a maid or a nurse. Why should I be treated like this? With bottled-up anger, I went to my grandmother-in-law's room. But the moment I opened the door, how did you... I was incapacitated by the shock. My grandmother-in-law was supposed to be injured and unable to stand up, but was standing up firmly on both feet. She walked up to me with steady steps and put on a beautiful smile. Let's show these two what we can do. My name is Beth. I used to work as a caregiver. I quit the job to become a housewife when I got married. I had just returned home from shopping and put my bags down on the table when my phone vibrated. It was an incoming call from Adam, my husband. He should have been at work at that hour. It was strange for him to call me. I answered the phone, feeling a little uneasy. Hello, honey? What's going on? Oh man, you know what? I got a little upset by what he said next. Maggie, my grandmother-in-law, had broken her leg and was unable to move. I was taken aback to hear that such an energetic woman who walked with a stride had slipped and fallen down while taking a walk. Even though she was healthy, she was quite old. I didn't know the extent of her injuries, but there was a good chance that she may become bedridden from now on. I knew she might need nursing care someday, but I never expected it to be so soon. My mom will take care of her until she gets better, but it's going to be hard for her to do it alone, you know? So, I'd like you to stay with them during this time. My mother-in-law, Kathy, lived with Maggie. She had no experience in nursing care unlike me, so they thought it would be more reassuring to have me there. I have often visited my in-laws' house and interacted with Maggie. Whenever I saw her, she was always cheerful and made me feel at ease. I liked her very much. If there was anything I could do, of course I was going to help. I eagerly agreed to Adam's proposal. The next day, I went to my in-laws' house alone. Adam had to work, so I was the only one staying with them. I looked up at the magnificent gate that I must have passed through many times. I had never paid much attention to it before. My in-laws' house was a grand colonial-style mansion. The yard was beautifully landscaped with large pine trees and autumn leaves. When I thought about staying there for a few months, it made me a little nervous. I realized that visiting and living in a house was completely different. As I walked the path leading up to the front door, I took a deep breath. Welcome, Beth. I am so glad you could stay with us. Thank you. I am happy to be of your help. Kathy greeted me at the door. I had a bit of a hard time with her. She had two sides, and if she didn't like something, she got into a bad mood instantly. I had kept a distance from her ever since she gave me a sarcastic remark. How's Maggie doing? She seems fine, to the point I'm getting annoyed. After exchanging a few words, she answered with a laugh about Maggie. I knew she was joking, but I sensed the truth in her words and felt a prickle in my stomach. I wasn't a fan of her at all. I wanted to get away from her as soon as possible. I think she's in her room. Why don't you go and see her? I gladly took her suggestion. Hi, Maggie. Oh, Beth. I am sorry it's become such a big deal. I was a little relieved to see her sitting on the bed, looking as healthy as before. But the cast from her waist to her right leg looked painful. According to her, when she slipped, she fell on her buttocks and broke the base of her thigh. When I worked at a nursing home, I once took care of a patient who had the same fracture. I remembered how hard and painful it was for the patient to move around. If there is anything I can do to help you, please let me know. Don't worry too much. Just make yourself at home. I took her hands and she returned her usual gentle smile. About a month after I started staying at my in-laws' house. Hey, Beth, there's a lot of raw garbage in the bin. I told you to keep it clean. Kathy yelled at me from the porch while I was hanging the sheets in the yard. I was completely exhausted. In addition to taking care of Maggie, I became responsible for all the housework there. Within 3 days of my arrival, Kathy abandoned it and threw it at me. Well, why don't you do it? I am busy right now. I talked back to her. By the time I realized what I had done, it was too late. She snickered and started ranting. How dare you talk to me like that when you're staying at my house? Don't you have manners? Oops, my mouth slipped. If I raised even one protest, she came back with twice as much sarcasm. I, of course, stood my ground in the beginning, but I became tired and stopped arguing after going through it every time. Since you married into my family, it's your duty to serve us, you know. Am I saying something wrong? I don't think so. She continued until I admitted my fault. Yes, you're right. I was wrong. I said the usual words. Okay, good. She walked away towards the living room. I had just finished most of my chores and was about to take a break when I received a call. I looked at the name and sighed for the unknown times. Hey, why haven't you done my laundry? Adam's angry shout came from the phone. Not only Kathy, but I had another cause of my exhaustion. It was my husband. He stayed at home because of his commute, which meant that there were chores that needed to be attended to there as well. In addition to taking care of Maggie, I had to take care of everyone's chores. I don't have time to take care of things there. Do it yourself. It wasn't like he couldn't cook or do laundry. In fact, for a while after we got married, he sometimes took the initiative in doing the housework. He became completely dependent on me, though. He wasn't pleased with my answer and raised his voice even more. What are you talking about? You are a stay-at-home wife. You got all the time in the world, don't you? Why can't you even do this? He put himself on the back burner and put all the blame on me. The way he said it was just like Kathy, and I lost all energy to talk back to him. I moved the noisy phone away from my ear, hung up on him, and then threw it on the couch in a fit of anger. At that moment, the door opened and Kathy peeked out. I stiffened, expecting her to say something. I'm going out for a while. You stay here. Sure. and as soon as she said it, she was gone. Ever since I came here, I felt that she had been going out more often. I wondered if it was to force me to do the housework. I was also fed up with myself for thinking negatively like this in those days. No matter how busy I was, neither Kathy nor Adam helped me. On the contrary, they complained to me. I felt low from their uncaring attitudes. Only Maggie, who could not move, cared and worried about me. Though I was exhausted both mentally and physically, there was something to be happy about. Maggie's leg was gradually getting better. The part she broke could have made her bedridden if unlucky. She had been going to rehab regularly, and her leg was getting better little by little. I felt very relieved seeing her like that. Thank you for everything. It's all thanks to you. On the way back from the hospital, she kept thanking me fervently, and I was uncomfortable. No, not at all. But I'm glad you're getting better. The sun shined on my hands as I gripped the steering wheel. It was a nice, sunny day, the first in a long time. Maybe I should have her take her meal out on the porch. I'll make sure to repay you for this favor. I didn't really understand what she meant at the time. 3 months have passed since I started staying with my in-laws. I finished putting away the dinner, and when I emerged into the living room, Kathy was there. She had a large suitcase open and was humming a tune. Hey, Kathy, what's going on? She stopped packing and looked at me. Oh, right. I forgot to tell you. I'm going to the Bahamas tomorrow. Pardon me? I thought I had misheard her, so I asked her back. She must have been in a good mood because she said again, Bahamas, Bahamas, and went back to packing her bags. It was usual for her to go out somewhere, but going abroad was totally out of the blue. She should have at least consulted with me beforehand. She said, without even looking at me, Take care of my mother, okay? I kept my mouth shut. It didn't matter what I said to her. Besides, even if she was at home, she didn't take care of Maggie or do the housework. It made no difference. If anything, I felt better for not having to deal with her usual sarcasm. I wanted her to leave as soon as possible. I drifted off to sleep, complaining. The next morning, I heard someone coming into the house, and then the living room door opened. Mom, are you ready? Adam, I've been waiting for you. I heard his name and came out of the kitchen in surprise. Honey, what are you doing here? For some reason, he was standing there. It was a weekday and he should have been at work by now. Hey, didn't you know? The trip to the Bahamas. Yeah, I know, but why are you here? Well, I'm going with my mom. What are you? He said it so matter-of-factly that I was absolutely stunned. Kathy must have misunderstood my surprised face and smirched at me. Oh, perhaps you wanted to go with us, Beth. You are so pretentious. You have my mother to take care of. Have you forgotten what you came here for? You're my daughter-in-law. You're supposed to take care of my family. Adam, who apparently took her words to heart, also grimaced at me. You haven't been doing much housework lately and have been really useless. You don't even do your duty, but want to have fun? You're ridiculous. At least, take care of my grandma properly. You used to be a pro. No, I didn't know where to begin my argument with such beside-the-point sarcasm and accusation. Still, I had to say something. When I opened my mouth, Kathy looked at her watch and exclaimed, "We're running late." "Well then, take care of my grandma." The two of them hurried to the front door. I naturally followed them, but the door closed in front of me mercilessly. The hallway was darkened with the sound of the heavy thud. I stood there looking at the closed door. I wondered if Adam had been preparing for the trip while I had been busy being a maid. I did all the housework, cared for Maggie, and everything else, and they went on a fun trip. I was fed up with their ludicrously insensitive attitudes. They accused me of slacking on my chores, but they put everything on me. They forced me to care for Maggie when they should have been the ones to do so. They uncared and left a disabled family member behind. Why should I be treated like this? I tried to suppress my uncontrollable anger by clenching my fists. I took a deep breath and calmed my nerves, not to go crazy. I had to prepare Maggie's meal. I headed for the kitchen in despair. I put the meal on a tray and went to Maggie's room. It wasn't that I didn't want to take care of her. I liked her and enjoyed making small talk and complaining to each other. What I didn't like was the attitude of Kathy and Adam. They imposed various things on me as if it was normal. It pissed me off. I shook my head to shake off the anger. "Maggie, I'm coming in." I knocked and opened the door. She was up in bed, stretching. "Good morning, Beth." "Good morning. You seem to be in good shape this morning." I saw her grinning meaningfully at me as I put down the tray on the table. I returned a curious gaze. She stuck her legs out of the bed and then stood up quickly in a huff. "What the—" I was startled. I knew her leg was recovering well, but it was still supposedly difficult to stand by herself. She stood up smoothly and without any hindrance. Looking at my face, she laughed like a child who had successfully pulled a prank. "How do you—" I used to compete as a high school athlete in track and field. I still couldn't understand what she was trying to say. She saw my puzzled expression and explained what had happened. Track and field was her passion when she was young, and she spent all her spare time training. Leg injuries were almost a daily occurrence back then, so she knew what to do when she got injured. Thanks to her precise initial response, the injury did not worsen, and she was able to recover faster than usual. In addition to having trained her muscles well from a young age, she still took walks on a daily basis. She must have maintained her strengths. No wonder her legs and back were strong. Remembering how she always walked with a beautiful posture, I was oddly convinced. I was bored just laying still in bed, so I was doing rehabilitation secretly. She had recently regained the ability to walk after a diligent routine. Of course, she was also doing it at the hospital, but it was not enough for her. Her active, always-on-the-move attitude was so like her that I couldn't help laughing. She suddenly made a serious expression and walked toward me. "I am very sorry, not only about taking care of me, but dealing with Kathy and Adam's insane attitude. I am truly sorry." She gave me a tight hug. I flustered and said, "Please, don't be." I was angry at those two, but that wasn't something that Maggie should have apologized for. Besides, I really enjoyed hanging out with her. So, let me return the favor. I heard that before. I tilted my head, not understanding what she meant, and Maggie held out her hands to me. What goes around comes around. Let's remind those two of that. I looked at her hand, stunned, and then at her face. She was looking at me with a wonderful smile on her face. She was right. There was no point in enduring them. The treatment I received was absurd and unreasonable. Then, of course, I had the right to retaliate. The anger that I had tried so hard to suppress just a minute ago welled up again. If I was bullied, I would retaliate. I would double the payback. I muttered this to myself and took her hand as she held it out to me. A week has passed since then. It was a cloudless, calm afternoon when my phone vibrated. Knowing who it was, I answered it without checking the screen. "Hey, what's going on here?" I laughed at the voice and the question, just as I had expected them to be. "What are you talking about?" I knew exactly why he sounded so agitated. Still, I asked deliberately, "Why is my grandma's house up for sale?" Adam yelled over the phone. A little further away, I heard Kathy fussing. Hearing her, my smile widened even more. After Maggie and I colluded, she took immediate action. First, she called her lawyer and changed the wills she had prepared. Her assets that were supposed to be inherited by Kathy and Adam were going to the children's sports charity. Her retaliation did not end there. On the same day she had changed her will, she went to the real estate agent and put the house on sale. I was shocked by this, but she told me that the mover and her next residence had already been arranged. She planned to live alone in an apartment with a helper until she could find a good nursing home. I vividly remembered her smiling with a refreshed expression. She did all this during the week Kathy and Adam were gone. Perhaps she had been preparing it for a long time. Otherwise, it wouldn't have gone so smoothly. She couldn't bear to see her daughter and grandson behaving as they did. Maggie's moved out.
What the hell? Why?
Well, I think she got tired of you guys leaving everything to me. Adam was annoyed by my nonchalant tone and burst into anger.
It's you, isn't it? You said something to her, didn't you? You don't even work, and you think you're so smart. You're just a wife who fails to do what he's supposed to do. You pull this stupid shit.
His angry voice overlapped with Kathy's scream. That was when my anger reached a boiling point.
Who's pulling the stupid shit?
Startled by my sudden outburst, their confusion seeped through the phone.
You're the ones who are running away from your responsibilities. Who do you think you are, putting everything on my shoulders? I'm not your servant or housekeeper.
I slammed the words at him as if punching him in the face. He seemed to be searching for words, trying to say something, but not a single word came out. "And by the way, I'm divorcing you. I've grown tired of you too." I said it in a way that I really didn't care about him.
"What?"
I heard a surprised voice in reply. When Maggie and I visited our lawyer, I also consulted him about my divorce. I hung up the phone to ignore him, who was ranting nonsense. Then I blocked his phone number. When I finished my work and took a breath, Maggie, who was sitting on the brand new sofa, laughed.
"I hope I have repaid the favor."
I turned my body toward her and smiled radiantly.
"Yes, for sure."
After that, Adam and Kathy lived together in the small apartment where he and I used to live. Kathy, who was apparently counting on Maggie's inheritance, refused to work. Adam's salary was not so great,
But her extravagance was still the same, and they fought every day. They tried to borrow money from relatives, but Maggie had already laid the groundwork. No one wanted to help them. Sometime later, I encountered a little incident. When I was shopping at a local supermarket, I heard yelling. I was astounded to see what was going on through the crowd. There was Kathy arguing with another customer. She was just about to grab the security guard who was trying to stop her. I saw her fall down, but I didn't know what happened afterward. I wasn't interested, and I didn't want to have anything to do with her anymore. Rumor has it that she broke her bone and needs care, but she has no one and is at her wit's end. Furthermore, I found out that Adam used his paid family leave to go to Bahamas. I don't know where the leak came from, but it got out to his office. His co-workers still look at him with dismay. He failed to find a new job and is still working at the same office, feeling ashamed of himself. And as for me, my divorce was finalized without a hitch. I have a new job as a caregiver and work at a nursing home near my house. Maggie now lives at a facility I work at. She is spending her days to the fullest every day. There are always a lot of people around her. She is very active and friendly, and is very popular there. I even envy her a little. She notices me and beckons me over with a smile. I smile back and head over to her, thinking of the new days ahead.
My husband let his family move in and told me to leave if I didn't like it. As a result of my leaving,
when I came home after a week-long honeymoon, I heard noises coming from inside the house. I got scared that it might have been burglarized while we were gone. Did you hear that? Maybe there's someone in the house. Should we call the police? I asked my husband, but he didn't seem to be concerned at all.
It's all right.
He walked into the house as he assured me. I followed him in a haste and found my mother-in-law and sister-in-law inside. I was relieved to see that they were not thieves, but I wonder why they were there. They supposedly offered to take care of the house while we were away, so my husband had given them the key. I thought they were going to leave after we returned. It's going to be dark soon if you don't go home, I urged them. Let us take it easy today. They not only didn't leave, but took over the living room and started to take a shower without permission. I thought they would go the next day. The next morning, they didn't show any sign of it at all. When I came home from work, they were still there. I couldn't take it anymore, so I asked my husband to kick them out. His reply was,
We all live together now, so if you don't like it, you get out.
He was asking me to leave instead. I said, okay, and left with only the bare necessities in my carry-on case. My name is Izzy. I'm a 29-year-old editor of a magazine. 3 years ago, I met my current husband Alex through a friend. I had hardly been in a relationship before him. I was attracted to his decisive and dependable personality unlike me. He said the love word first, and after 3 years of dating, he proposed to me and we got married. When we were looking around for a new house and a wedding venue, he made everything go smoothly and was very reliable. I enjoyed living with him in our new house, but my mother-in-law Kelly and sister-in-law Joe were my headaches. My father-in-law passed away about 10 years ago. Alex's family consists of Kelly and 27-year-old Joe. I was worried that I wouldn't get along with them. We only had minimal contact with each other before we got married, so I thought we could continue to keep a good distance. However, after we got married, They started bothering me. Kelly called me almost every day. Can you increase my allowance just a little bit? I can't live a decent life with the current amount. Just $200 more is enough. She nagged me. Alex was in charge, so I told her to ask him instead of me. I'm sure you're spending extravagantly. That's why you can't give me more. You're supposed to take good care of your in-law, or karma will bite you. She refused to listen to me and even blamed me for her problem. Other than that, she told me to visit her more and help her with the chores. And as a daughter-in-law, it was polite to send her favorite food every month. While she gave me lectures over the phone, Joe visited me unannounced. When I was cooking dinner, she often came over saying, I was in the neighborhood, so I thought to drop by. Is your dinner ready yet? I'm hungry. Please hurry up and let me eat. She relaxed on the sofa until it was ready, and then left after she ate. I told her numerous times to give me a notice before she came by, and also not to come so often. Don't mind me, I'm just stopping by. You can just feed me whatever. She didn't want to listen to me, and it was useless for me to keep arguing with her. I couldn't be too harsh on her because she was Alex's sister. When I told him that I wasn't happy with Kelly and Joe, he also warned both of them, so I didn't react strongly against them myself. Then, 6 months into our marriage, Alex and I decided to go on a honeymoon, which had been delayed due to our work schedule. The destination was Europe, and we enjoyed ourselves to the fullest and released our daily stress. After a week-long trip without any hiccups, we returned to the house and heard the noises from inside. I got scared that there was a burglar. Did you hear that? Maybe there is someone in the house. Shouldn't we call the police? I asked Alex, but he didn't seem to be concerned at all.
It's all right.
He walked into the house as he assured me. I hurriedly followed him and found Kelly and Joe. I was relieved to see that they were not thieves, but I wondered why they were in the house. Oh, you're back. Give me a souvenir now. The bracelet I asked you for. Did you get it?
Of course not. It's too expensive.
While I was stunned, the three of them were chatting happily. Why are you guys here? Are you trying to say that our presence is a nuisance? An empty house is an easy target for burglars while you're on vacation. We went out of our way to protect it. You should be grateful. They offered to take care of the house while we were away, so Alex gave them the key. I told him that he should have talked to me about it. He responded that he didn't have time because they came to him at the last minute. What had been done was already done, so I tried to think that the house was safe thanks to them. I took a look around the house and found that every room was messy with their stuff. Joe's clothes were hung in large quantity in the closet, and the rest that didn't fit were piled up on the floor. In the living room, clothes, bags, remote controllers, comic books, and all sorts of things were thrown around, not only on the table, but even on the floor. I was exhausted after my flight, and I was frustrated to clean up all those things, but that wasn't the problem. I thought Kelly and Joe were going to leave after we arrived, but they didn't. It's going to be dark soon. If you don't go home now, I urged them. Let us take it easy today. They not only didn't leave, but they took over the living room and started to take a shower without permission. They totally made themselves at home. I thought they were going to leave the next day, but there was no sign of it the next morning, and they were still there when I came home from work. I told them that it was time for them to go home. We are family. You don't have to mind us. You can just pretend we are not here. They adamantly stayed put. Although I was told not to care about them, I was the one who cooked, cleaned, and did laundry. I didn't feel at ease at all. If I didn't get rid of them, even by force, they would have remained as long as they wanted. I decided to ask Alex to kick them out. I was cleaning up my room until he came home when I noticed that one of my perfume collections was missing. It was a limited edition that was no longer on sale and cost over $300. I had been using it carefully little by little. I panicked and asked Kelly about it, but she didn't even know I had perfume. When I questioned Jo, "Oh, I have it," and she pulled it out from her bag and handed it over. The bottle I got was almost empty. I had used it so carefully that I still had more than 6% of it left. "It smells good, doesn't it?" My friend liked it too, so I lent it to her. She showed no sign of apologizing, and I finally lost my temper. "Why did you use it without asking me? What you're doing is theft. Didn't you learn that you shouldn't steal from others? What the hell? I only borrowed it for a moment. Why are you overreacting? If you just borrowed it, then give me back what you used." "Fine, but it was already used, so I will give you half of the money." "I don't want the money back. I want the same perfume back." "You are so mean. Just for the stupid perfume. I know that brand too. It shouldn't be so expensive." She looked up the price on her phone. "Holy cow! Why is it so expensive? Are you done spending $300 for perfume? If it's so important, why don't you look it up?" It was more expensive than she thought, so she became upset with me. It's valuable to me, so I used it only inside the house. I never imagined that I would end up having a relative that comes into my room and uses my things without my permission. While we were arguing, Alex came home.
What are you guys making a fuss about?
"Listen, Alex, I only used a little perfume, but she called me a thief." I left her complaining in the living room and told Alex what happened in the bedroom. I told him that I was out of patience and wanted him to get rid of them.
Don't get so worked up about a little thing. And I haven't told you that they are going to live with us in this house.
My mouth was agape hearing his unimaginable reply.
My mom's house was old, and some parts were falling apart. She was contemplating whether she should repair them or move out. We have spare rooms here, and she could save some money, so we decided to live together.
Why didn't you talk to me about it? Do you own this house? I'm paying the mortgage too, right?
Don't blame me. My mom took it upon herself to sell her house. Anyway, we are living together, so if you don't like it, you get out.
He decided without discussing it with me, and even told me to leave. I felt my feelings for him fading away. I understand. I started packing the bare necessities in my carry-on case. Alex didn't try to stop me, but commented that I was immature to run away after a fight, and walked out of the bedroom. Kelly and Joe were grinning at the sight of me packing and locked the door as soon as I walked out of the house. I had no intention of going back there, and had no feelings in particular. Then I went to a hotel and called my boss, with whom I usually consulted on various matters, and asked for a few days off. I looked for an apartment during my days off, and informed my parents that I separated from Alex with an explanation. They asked me what I was going to do, and I told them I was going to get a divorce. In the meantime, Alex texted me once.
When you are sorry, you can come back. Mom and Joe both say they would forgive you.
When I called him to ask for a divorce, he, at first, resisted by saying,
You're divorcing me over something like this? You just have to put up with it a little bit.
He eventually understood that I was determined and agreed to it. From then on, things proceeded smoothly, and the divorce was finalized in 6 months. I wanted to get rid of him ASAP, so we quickly went over the division of property, and I gave the house to him. We had been married for less than a year, and we were divorced. My friends and co-workers were worried about what had happened. If it was all me, I had shrugged them off and hadn't been able to talk about it. This time, I was so over it that I told them the details. They all said, "That's impossible. I'm sorry you had to go through that." I was glad to have told them, as they sympathized with me, which made me feel a bit better. After I started living alone, I worked harder than ever before. Instead of spending time on chores, I took up 3 times as many projects as usual, and even supported those who were overwhelmed. My boss was concerned about me, but when I became alone, the memories of the hard times popped up in my mind, and I started blaming myself. I was grateful to devote myself to work. While I was submerged in work, Alex called me about 5 months after my divorce. I had left most of my belongings behind when I left the house. I answered the phone, thinking it might be about that. At first, he asked me what I was doing and whether I was living alone. He didn't want to get to the point. I thought it was unusual, as he was the kind of person who got cranky if anyone waffled. I didn't want to waste my time, so I asked him the purpose of his calling. He said he wanted to get back together with me. I had no intention of it, so I said no and tried to hang up the phone. He rushed to stop me.
Wait, there is something I hadn't told you yet.
What is it? I'm busy, so hurry up.
Can you lend me some money? I'm struggling to pay my mortgage.
It used to be paid for by both of us, so I knew it must have been hard to bear the burden alone. I also knew it wasn't that much of an amount his salary couldn't cover. He explained that he expected to get a raise a few months ago, but it didn't happen. He was also told that there wouldn't be a chance of it in the future at his current performance. If that was the case, he decided to change jobs. He thought it was going to be easier to find one with better conditions. The reality was that he could only find one that paid less, and he hadn't been able to change jobs yet. Whatever the reason, I didn't want to lend him money. I told him not to call me anymore.
You're still single, right? No one will take a not-so-young divorcee. You'd better get back together with me.
I simply said, "No thank you," and hung up the phone. I didn't understand why I fell in love with and married him. I was so disappointed in my lack of discernment. After that, not only Alex, but also Kelly and Joe started harassing me many times. I found out from the conversations with them that they believed Alex was making a good income, all because of us buying a new house and having a big wedding. When their allowance wasn't increased, and Alex kept refusing to do so, they thought that I was preventing it. They rejoiced that they could live a comfortable life after I left, but his salary was less than they expected. When they realized that the life they envisioned was disappearing, they called me in panic. They must have thought men were paid more than women, but my salary was higher than his. I wanted to block them all on my phone, but Alex knew where I worked. I was worried he would call me at work or show up at my office, so I tried to answer his call once a few times. He usually complained about Kelly and John spending too much money and he had run out of savings. They started working part-time, but they couldn't make ends meet because they spent it so quickly It was always about money. I thought if I told him that I didn't have any either, he would stop calling me. I decided to tell him the next time he called. That day, as usual, he said,
I need a loan. I don't have any money to pay the mortgage this month.
So I responded, actually, I'm going to resign from my job soon. I've spent most of my savings, so I want you to lend me some money. If you think I'm lying, you can ask someone at work. Hearing this, Alex just said, I see, and hung up the phone. Since then, he stopped calling me. When I told my friend about this, she told me Alex's current situation was much more difficult than I had heard. He ended up getting a less paying job, and most of his salary was taken by the mortgage payment. Not only that, Jo had an affair with the manager of her part-time job. His wife found out and filed a civil tort claim against her. In the beginning, Jo claimed that the manager asked her out, and she had no idea he was married. However, based on this exchange of text, she was aware that his wife was pregnant and asked him out. The manager and his wife divorced, and Jo was charged a large amount of compensation. Her friends found out about it, and she lost both her job and friends. Alex's family is paying the mortgage and the debt created by the lawsuit. It's like they live to pay off debt with debt. Kelly supposedly complains that her friends had grandchildren and her kids are still single and poor. Alex whined to his friend that they fight every day. He laments that he's single now, but women don't pay attention to him. He lost weight and looks disheveled. He's looking much older than his age. What woman would want him? A friend rolled her eyes. I told many people why I divorced him, and now this friend is the only one he has. He has no one else to talk to, so he tells her everything. She's the one who introduced us and feels a bit responsible for the outcome. Not only does she weirdly enjoy hearing his dramas, but she keeps in touch with him to keep him away from me. As for me, I have recently founded a web magazine with my university friend. I left my job and spent most of my savings to set up the company. It's a small startup, and I have to do a lot of things on my own, but I'm happy to take on new challenges. I used to be intimidated to start new things, but thanks to many obstacles that have been thrown my way, I'm able to manage them now. And I have a new relationship with a guy I met at work. He respects my feelings and leads me. Thanks to meeting him, I realized that Alex was not the decisive leader, but was just selfish. For a few months after my divorce, I felt like I could never get married or have a boyfriend again. Now I'm able to think positively and want to cherish my new happiness.
My husband betrayed me and got a coworker pregnant. A few days later, my brother visited him, and his face turned pale.
The moment I opened the door to our bedroom, I screamed. There was my husband and a strange woman, naked. They were obviously having an affair.
Shut up, you ugly bitch.
There is no way I'll ever be satisfied with an old woman like you.
Girls I hook up with should be pretty, you know. And, by the way, she's pregnant. So I'm done with you. You can leave now.
My husband, who was seen cheating on his wife, doesn't feel bad about it. He insults me for my looks, calling me ugly. The kind husband who used to tell me that I was beautiful inside out was gone. I left the house without the strength to talk back. My name is Joyce. I am 32 years old and work for a temp agency. I've been with the company for more than 10 years, and I have a good reputation within the company. I am proud of the fact that I have helped many job seekers. I make good money and have recently started living in a tower condo. It seems like my life is smooth sailing, but I have a big problem. I tend to carry around a lot of stress from work. I love to drink and often stop by my favorite bar after work. There, the barkeeper would listen to my complaining about my work. So I was dealing with a very annoying job seeker the other day. He had no will of his own and left everything to me.
That must have been tough. Even if they leave it to you, they still have to find a position that they are satisfied with. But you've dealt with people like that in the past, right?
Well, I can understand they might feel uneasy during the job hunting process. I am able to draw out their strength and aptitude, but that doesn't always lead to what they want. That's why this job is tiring. Going to a bar like this helps relieve some of the stress. And after I got home, I order a bunch of food from Uber. I spent my days like this relieving my stress before going to bed each night. That's why I have been gaining weight lately. But I had to let it go to keep working. Then one day, I was having a drink at the same bar as usual. Then a man entered the bar and approached me.
May I sit next to you?
He smiled and sat down next to me. Oh, sure. Go ahead. He was a handsome man with a slim figure, in contrast to me.
Hi, Wade. Good to see you.
Thank you. Can I have whiskey, please? Straight?
Sure. Just a moment.
He seems to be a regular customer of this bar. Apparently, he's good with alcohol. After sipping whiskey, he calls out to me.
Nice to meet you. I'm Wade. I'd like to have a drink with you, if you don't mind.
No, sure. Nice to meet you too. I'm Joyce.
What kind of work do you do, Joyce?
I work for a temp agency. It's been over 10 years.
Whoa, 10 years? I respect that. I'd like to know more about you.
As soon as we introduced ourselves, we immediately became comfortable with each other. From there, we talked about our favorite drinks and hobbies for about an hour. Wade and I became friends. We met a few times at a bar, and we started dating. I was the one who asked him to marry me. Wade accepted me as I was, without worrying about my age or my appearance. Wade was only 25, but I was already past 30. I didn't want to delay marriage any longer. I was very nervous about proposing, but I did my best to tell him my feelings for him.
Of course, I'll marry you. Thank you for choosing me.
Wade accepted with a smile, and we were happily married. He moved out the apartment he was living in and moved in with me. He had been working as a temp until we got married, but he started to feel that he wanted to get a job and become a full-time employee. For my husband's sake, I put my skill as an employee of a temp agency to good use. As a result, I was able to introduce him to the best job.
Thank you, Joyce. I can finally work as a full-time employee. You're the best.
I'm happy for you. Thank you for believing me. Let's do our best for each other, for the sake of our future child. Hearing my husband's words of gratitude, I was once again motivated to work hard. I was looking forward to our new married life. However, our newlywed life took a turn for the worse after only a few months. We were both getting busier at work, and we were spending very little time together. Hey, I don't know if we are going to be able to keep this up. I'm a little worried that we are not spending enough time together. Can we spend more time together? I felt that our lifestyle were becoming disconnected. So I asked my husband for advice. But my husband's response was so simple.
Well, I guess work comes first. We can't help it.
He seems to be prioritizing work over spending time with me. I understand that he values his work, but I don't get the sense that he wants to enjoy his time with me. Also, it has become the norm for my husband to come home around midnight these days. Even if you are busy with work, you come home late, you know? What are you doing after work? Are you meeting someone else?
What? Are you doubting me? I'm just busy working overtime. Well, I go to the bar alone lately, but that's all. Let me do what I want with that much.
But please think about spending a little time with me too. I'm always waiting for you to come home, you know? We can't even have dinner together anymore.
Alright, I get it. What a pain.
I had wondered about my husband's cold attitude. I just wished I could spend some quality time with him. A few days passed. I finished work earlier than usual, and I'm in a good mood. My husband happened to be taking a day off, so we can finally spend some quality time together as husband and wife. I come home and open the front door. I'm home! But there is no answer from my husband. I opened the door to my room, thinking he might be out of the house. The next moment, I could not believe what I saw, and I screamed out. Oh my! What? There was my husband with a woman I didn't know. They were naked, having an affair.
What? Why are you home early? I mean, what's with the loud voice? You know what? You should be thanking me. I've been with a fat older woman like you all this time.
He was caught cheating on me, and my husband doesn't seem to feel a bit bad about it. And he talks down to me, like he's insulting my looks. What the hell is going on here? You're gonna have to explain it to me. And why are you talking about my looks? What's wrong with you? I was confused and told my husband to explain the situation. But my husband was aloof and continued to insult me.
I was having an affair with this woman. See? This is Nina. We work together. The truth is, I was busy meeting with her, you know.
You were cruel, Wade. Are you Joyce? His wife? Whoa, you were as fat and ugly as Wade told me. Wade doesn't deserve a woman like you. He deserves better. This Nina girl had no mercy on me either. Get out, both of you. Get dressed and get the hell out, now. I immediately tried to get rid of my husband and the woman, but they insisted.
You're the one who should leave. This place has become a love nest for me and Nina. Can't you see? Nina is beautiful. You are so different from her.
The fat and ugly one.
You know you're not good enough for me, right? Oh, one more thing. Nina is pregnant. You and I are getting divorced.
Yes, it's gonna be me and him. You should be out of his life. I was also told that she, the woman my husband cheated on me with, was pregnant and was forced to divorce me. My anger had reached its peak. I knew that dealing with these two idiots would get me nowhere, so I tried to hold back my anger.
You're trying to say something? But I didn't cheat on you, you know.
What are you talking about?
Unless you were recording this entire conversation, you have no proof. Even if you try, I can make up any story the way I want and tell everyone.
You are such a naive, stupid woman. Offering me a job, you know. My husband said those selfish things and then returned the favor. He must be insane. I wonder where the sweet husband of mine has gone. Betrayed in every way, I had no energy to talk back and agreed to divorce. Before I left, I took out my anger on my husband. You think you are going to get what you want? You're wrong. You're gonna pay for this. I promise. Yeah. You can come to me anytime. Well, I guess it doesn't matter how hard you try. My husband took my words as nothing more than a sore loser. I was so angry that I ran out of the apartment and went to my brother's house to see him. There, I talked to him about it and decided to get back at my husband. The next day, I went to his office with my brother. Here I am. I did what you told me to do yesterday. I don't think it would have made any difference. I have work to do, so make it quick. My husband, arrogant as ever, looked at my brother's face, but had no idea who he was. I think I've seen you before, but who are you? Wade? What do you mean you'd never know? The face of the general manager of your own company. My husband's face breaks into a panic when he hears my brother's question. You can't be. Yes, that's right, I am. I'm Joyce's brother, and I believe we met you at the wedding. Well, since we didn't have much contact at work, it's hard for you to recognize me as the general manager. Joyce has told me a lot about you. You're beyond ungrateful. Can't you see that your behavior is unacceptable? As an employee and as a family member, I could have you fired for hurting my sister, you know. The tone was calm, but my brother's words were deeply affecting my husband. When my husband lost his will to say anything back, I followed my brother's lead. My brother reported to me that he saw you kissing Nina. That made me worry, so I left work early yesterday, so that I could hire a private investigator to look into your background. I will soon have proof of the affair, and I'll be using them to sue you. So, be ready for it. With a refreshed look on my face, I left. When I looked back briefly, my husband was standing there with a pale face. Later that night, I returned to my apartment and drifted off to sleep. But while I was sleeping, I heard a noise. To my surprise, my husband was turning the room upside down. I had forgotten to retrieve his duplicate key and had allowed him to break into the room. What are you doing? Do you know what time it is? You are disturbing the neighbors. Leave! Shut up. There's no way I'm leaving like this. Give me the data of the photo. I will erase and destroy the evidence. My husband was yelling at me and glaring at me in a desperate attempt to escape. My brother rushed in and seized him. Fortunately, my brother had just stayed at my place to discuss our plan in detail. After that, the security guard I had called also seized him. My husband was completely immobilized. Get off me! What the hell are you going to do with me? I'm going to call your parents now. I'm telling them what happened and get them over here. And I'm going to ask them to take their helpless son home. No, you can't do this. Hello? Yes, it's me, Joyce. I'm sorry for calling so late at night. I have something urgent to tell you. Oh, Joyce, what's wrong? It's about Wade and me. We are getting divorced. What? What are you talking about? Why all of a sudden? No wonder you were surprised. I apologize for the sudden report. Wade has been having an affair with a coworker. He also made some abusive remarks towards me. Would you mind listening to the recording? What? As soon as I started playing the recorder on the spot, my husband turned pale. Hey, I don't know anything about this. If I had recorded it, it would be evidence, right? You told me when I caught you cheating on me. Remember? So, I had the recorder with me at all times after that. There's no way you can get away with this. I think you should just give up and wait for your parents to get here. Oh no. I understand the situation now. I'm so ashamed of you, Wade. And I am so sorry. He caused you so much pain, Joyce. As his parent, I am truly sorry. I am going to go over there now with my husband and bring our stupid son home. About 30 minutes after the phone call, my in-laws arrived. Make sure you apologize to Joyce in front of us. I am sorry. My husband gets down on his knees and apologizes to me in tears. A few months later, I divorced Wade. The affair spread quickly in Wade's company. As soon as the evidence became public, Wade was called by the president. Wade, what you did is something that will never be forgiven. It will damage the company's social credibility. I'm truly sorry, but I am going to have to ask you to leave this company. By the way, Nina has already resigned. She says she's given up on the idea of marrying you and raising the child on her own. No, this can't be true. My ex-husband tried to get in touch with Nina, but they have lost touch. He was forced to resign from his job and lost his lover all at once. He is unable to live alone because he has to pay alimony to me. He cries to his parents and spends his time at his parents' house feeling ashamed of himself. The amount of alimony is growing considerably due to the photo data and the abusive words he hurled at me. I hope he can start his life over again and live a decent life next time. After that, I met a wonderful prince, a little older than me, and got married. I used to put work first, but I've started to think about my family more. I work on my stress with daily exercise and put a little more effort into my beauty regimen. While reflecting on my past, I want to spend my days in a way that makes me truly happy.
My husband builds our home and forces me to live with his parents, but I don't want to. And
then I'll divorce you. Huh? Wait a minute. How could you say that all of a sudden? You see, it's this, this. I've never seen my husband, Dave, panic like this before. But it was my mother-in-law, Meryl, who spoke up instead of Dave. Oh, Dave, honey. Stop being so upset now. How pathetic. I always tell you this every single time. A wife must always listen to her husband. So, it's okay. She's saying that she's divorcing you. It's completely outrageous for a wife to disobey her own husband. If she doesn't like it, then she can just leave. No, well, yes, but... You say that I could just leave if I didn't like it. But we're going to get a divorce though, so there won't be any choice for me but to leave, you know. My goodness, you never shut your mouth. I've really never liked you since the beginning, when we first met. Oh, really? What a coincidence! I also hated you from the very beginning, too. My name is Kelly, and I work in an office. My husband, Dave, and I decided to get married after 6 months of dating, and we have been married for over 2 years now. I loved his personality, where he'd willingly make decisions about things. I am the second eldest out of the 3 sisters, and although my eldest sister, who is usually quiet and reserved, she had a strong sense of keeping things under control. And as for the youngest sister, even though she was the youngest, she had great leadership skills. So I was sandwiched in between my sisters like this, and whenever we were invited to family events or when my father has some invited guests over at our house, I would just follow my sisters around. I can't fully say that it was all because of the environment I grew up in, but I'm not really good at making any decisions. The bigger the issue, the more I think over and over again, and in the end, I always have trouble coming up with a detailed plan and decision. When I was living at home, I was able to live comfortably as long as I kept up with my 2 sisters. I think that's why I saw my husband as a dependable guy who was really good at making decisions. But the one thing I have that no one has is that I would say that I'm much more particular and stubborn about some things than most people. And I'm proud about this part of me. Probably because we 3 sisters were close in age. When we were kids, our father would get angry at all 3 of us at some things as a joint responsibility. The eldest and the youngest sister would immediately apologize to father, saying, "I'm sorry, but I would never apologize unless I completely agreed with him." Even after an hour or 2 had passed since I got grounded or punished, I was too stubborn and never apologized to him, and my eldest sister got tired of waiting and said to me, "Just say sorry here and it will solve everything." And since she said that in front of father, he would say, "What are you talking like that for?" And he kept getting angrier and angrier. I caused a lot of trouble to both my eldest and youngest sisters due to my stubbornness. Now that we became adults, it is one of our family's funny stories that we have. But to put it simply, I'm a person who leaves judgment to others, but stubbornly refuses to agree with what I don't agree with. Being like that, my husband still fell in love with me and asked me to marry him. He is a very special person to me. Since I married my husband, my life has been calm. My husband, who knows my particularities very well, never tries to butt in or argue with what I was particular about. So, I liked the life I had with Dave very much. Then, suddenly, my husband suggested that we should buy a home.
Hey, it's been 2 years since we got married, so why don't we start thinking about buying our own home?
Oh, that sounds great.
I know it's a long way off, but we want our kids to grow up in a place where they can have fun. Besides, Kelly, you're facing a lot of issues with where we're renting right now, right?
Oh yeah, sort of. We have been living in a rented apartment since we got married, and since living there, I have been concerned about the noises. If I slept in my bedroom, I would wake up at 5 a.m. to the sound of the TV from the neighbors below. On weekends, the neighbors next door are singing very loudly with guitars in their hands. Our house was a corner room on the top floor of a 6-story apartment building, and from the walkway, if it was a clear day, we could see a beautiful mountain. Some neighbors would come all the way just to see it, but there is this one neighbor who stands in front of our front door with a phone in his hand and says, "This is so beautiful," and doesn't leave the spot for some time. Even my husband could hear the guitar noise from the next door, but it seems like my husband can't hear the noisy sound of the residents below. So, I'm aware that my ears are too sensitive, but waking up at 5 a.m. every morning was causing me some stress. Plus, I was very concerned about the sound I was making on my own. I was wearing fuzzy slippers to try to reduce the noise as much as possible and to be considerate of the people living below me. But my husband wouldn't really care about that and walk around with his bare feet thumping around. You might say it's just a normal sound, but to me, even that's stressful, and I always think that I don't want to bother people because of me. That's why I was so happy when my husband suggested to buy our own home. I was really happy that he took my personality into consideration, not to mention our children. My husband was determined to buy a custom-built home and was determined to start making the home from finding our own land. I agreed with his idea, and from then on, we spent our holidays looking for a land. It took us 3 months to find a plot of land, and when the time to sign the contract came, I'm thinking $20,000 for the land as a deposit and $30,000 for the house. But is that okay? Yeah, that's fine. But how much shall I pay? Kelly, you don't have to pay. I'll pay it out of my savings. Oh? Okay, I see. I'll pay the loan, and I want you to bear the cost of living with the living expenses. Okay then, let's do that. It was pretty easily decided about who would do what. Then the search for a home builder began. And as I was not particularly particular about the home builder, I went along with my husband's decision. But once we signed the contract with the home builder and proceeded to the floor plan, my parents-in-law, Meryl and Jack, began to show their interest in it. Oh, wait a minute. You've already began discussing about the floor plan, is that right? Let me see it. Oh, okay, here. That day, as soon as Meryl and Jack came to visit us, they questioned us about our floor plan. Oh, this kitchen is no good. It'll be difficult to use. Oh, really? You think so? Yeah. What do you call this separate kitchen table again? Ireland kitchen, is it? Do you mean island kitchen? Well, I don't really care about the name, but this is not good. From this direction, people can see the full view of the kitchen. You should make the kitchen as an L shape. We should? Why should Meryl be the one to decide about this? My husband likes the kitchen as it is, so there's nothing wrong with it. Dave and I prefer the island kitchen, so there's no problem with it. Once I said that, Meryl glared at me, and Dave panics at the tension we had and came in between. Now, it's just still in the draft stage at the moment. Why don't we discuss more and decide on it some other time? My husband's statement was totally missing the point. Instead, couldn't he at least just say, "It's Kelly and I's house, so it's none of your business, Mom"? After that, Meryl went on to say that the living room should have more room and that the house should be barrier-free and so on, as if she herself was going to live there. Even Jack was saying that we should build a porch right at the entrance. I don't think that this would happen, but I think I should just make sure about this with Dave. Hey, the new house that we're building is for only you and I to live in, right? I posed the question to Dave after both Meryl and Jack went home. Yes, that's right. Only the kids, me, and you, Dave, will live there, right? Why? What do you mean, why? Well, I'm not going to live with your parents. Do you mean that you won't live with them at all? Yeah. Well, you didn't have to be that clear about it. Well, if I don't make these things clear, we'll fight about it later on. Besides, we talked about this already when we started looking for our land. I said that I wouldn't live with my parents and I wouldn't live with your parents, and you agreed to that, right? Well, yes, but how come you wouldn't live with them at all? I'm sure in the future we might ask your parents to take care of our kids. Well, they won't come, I know that for sure. That's because they said that we have our own life, and they're already looking for a nursing home for them. And they also prepare themselves on where to be buried once they're gone. Isn't that a little cold? Cold? What do you mean? Well, I mean, that means that you won't take care of your parents at all, right? No, I will take care of them. Huh? I don't really understand. If my parents are in trouble, I'll help them. That's pretty obvious, right? No matter how much they search for good nursing homes, if my parents get sick, I will go and take care of them. What I can't tolerate are parents who take it for granted that their kids are the ones who have to take care of them. My parents always try to avoid being a burden to us, you know? Does that mean that my parents are the ones who are being a burden to us? To say it bluntly and honestly, yes. It means that I see glimpses of that. Because why do they meddle so much about our house? We're independent, remember? If it was just an advice, I'd gladly accept it. But today, it looked to me as if they were ordering us to do things because they were going to live with us in our new house. That's not true. I see. Did I misunderstand? If I did, then I'm sorry. So, you won't be living with your parents when the new house is complete, right? Of course, we won't be living with them. I see. Good, good. I'm glad to hear that. I was wrong then. I'm sorry. I got the word out of my husband that his parents would not be living together with us, but even after that, his parents continued to butt in and meddle. No matter how I look at it, I can totally take the hint that they're trying to live together with us. If both Meryl and Jack are kind, nice people, there is still some room for some thought. And if my husband had properly informed me at the beginning that he wanted to live with them, there would be some room to think about the possibility of it. But I think my husband intends to force me to live together with them once the house is built. Besides, I really didn't like how Meryl behaved in general. Meryl just loves to gossip around, and she is always looking for something to gossip about. There are several houses right in front of Meryl and Jack's house, and Meryl knows when the people drive in and out of their houses, and it seems like she knows their routine schedule. She knows when they drive in and out because she peeks through the curtains every time she hears a sound. I get so frustrated every time I see Meryl do this. Well, if there is a person like Meryl living in the neighborhood, I guess the neighborhood is a little safe, but I still didn't like her behavior. You shouldn't really care about other people but yourself. But if someone is in trouble, you can help them, and that should be enough. Besides, she only speaks bad things about people. I really hated it when she did that too. Whenever she opens her mouth, she says, "I don't dislike that person," or "that person is not a bad person." But then, right after, she will say something bad about them. She really has a bad habit about that. She has a way of thinking that I cannot understand at all. And Jack doesn't even try to stop her from doing it. Sometimes they even get together and listen through the curtains to see what the neighbors are up to, and they argue with each other about what is right and wrong. It is hell for me to live with such people like Meryl and Jack. And since my husband's parents are like that, my husband also has a tendency to look down on people. I never saw a glimpse of this before we got married. Thinking about that now, I'm sure he hid that part from me. Since we got married, my husband began to talk down on people. I noticed negative comments such as, "He's useless," or "He can't do his job," and so on. As long as you belong to a company, you may experience that kind of feeling one way or another. But it was the company that decided to hire those kind of people. And we can't really say anything about that. They were hired because they are expected to have certain abilities. It's just a waste of time and not good for our mentality to be always negative about it. But my husband seems to keep himself going by looking down at other people. Seeing my husband be like that, I was a little disappointed in him already too. And now that disappointment I've had has become into something bigger. If my husband now forces me to live with his parents, I will divorce him. So from then on, when his parents made some comments about the floor plan, I remained quiet. Then, bit by bit, both Meryl and Jack began to directly say their comments and desires to the designer. Now, what they did is completely out of the line. My husband was looking at me on how I'd react to his parents at first, but seeing me quiet, I guess he was relieved that I wasn't saying anything. After that, he allowed his parents to say whatever they wanted about the house. Then the house was built, and it was made completely and 100% through what Meryl and Jack had desired for. Now, my husband had been busy with the moving process, but we managed to get all the things together, and the move was set for tomorrow.
Well then, let's go over to the new house.
My husband talks to me with a huge smile on his face. We're going there tomorrow anyways, so we don't have to go now.
No way! We have to decide what to put and where to put it. Why aren't you so motivated? It's a newly built house, you know. I built it just for you, Kelly.
Yeah, right. Who would want to live in a house that doesn't reflect any of my opinions?
And besides, not going to check on the house even once is also kind of disappointing.
Because I'm not interested.
Excuse me?
I'm not interested in the new house.
Hey, don't say that now, or I'm going to get angry.
My husband is quite excited about the new house, and I'm just very unmotivated about it.
Anyways, we're going.
Well, if it'll make things easier, then fine. And when we arrived at the new house, I saw some familiar luggages which had already been moved in. I knew it. And my husband ran up the stairs and brought Meryl and Jack, who were waiting ahead of us.
My parents are also coming to live with us today, so please take care of them well.
I can't believe it. He really said that. Yes, well, let's get divorced then. I still had a tiny bit of hope that my husband would keep his promise to me. Dave wouldn't break the promise, is what I thought. Well, this was a faint hope. There's nothing to hesitate about anymore. But I decided to watch over him for a while if he would change his thoughts. Hey, Kelly, why would you say such a thing to ruin the moment? The house is finished, so it's a good, happy thing, right? No way. Oh, why is that? Because my no-good husband didn't keep his promise. Huh? I'm saying that your no-good son didn't keep his word. You! What are you talking about? Hey, Dave, do you remember your promise?
What are you talking about?
Oh, so you are aware that you're a no-good husband, huh? I said that I didn't want to live with your parents, remember? And you told me that you don't want to live with your parents either, right? Do you even remember that?
I built this house with my own money.
So?
So, I get to decide who lives in that house.
Oh, really? And?
So, I decided that I will live with my parents. And you're going to obey it.
So, your promise to me was a lie?
Yes, it is. Because if I didn't promise you that, we wouldn't be able to build the house, right?
I don't know what you mean by we wouldn't be able to build the house, but you lied when you said you would build a house for me then, didn't you?
No, that's... Really, I love you, but my parents are important too, so I'm sorry.
I see. I understand.
Kelly,
Then, I'm getting a divorce.
Huh? Wait a minute. How could you say that all of a sudden? You see, it's this, this.
I've never seen my husband Dave panic like this before. But it was my mother-in-law, Meryl, who spoke up instead of Dave. Oh, Dave, honey. Stop being so upset now. How pathetic. I always tell you this every single time. A wife must always listen to her husband. So it's okay, she's saying that she's divorcing you. It's completely outrageous for a wife to disobey her own husband. If she doesn't like it, then she can just leave.
No, well, yes, but...
You say that I could just leave if I didn't like it, but we're going to get a divorce though, so there won't be any choice for me but to leave, you know? My goodness, you never shut your mouth. I've really never liked you since the beginning when we first met. Oh, really? What a coincidence. I also hated you from the very beginning, too. Just one last thing. Do you really think that Dave alone can pay the loan on this house with just his income? Huh? Aha! I knew it. You're thinking that Dave can pay off all the loan with just his income, aren't you? This house is in Dave's name and the loan is under his name. He's paying off the full amount of loan, which is all deducted from his income. If he pays the loan with his income, then who is going to cover the living expenses? Dave, it seems like you're forgetting too, but it was me who was going to pay for the living expenses. Meryl and Jack, you both are already living on a pension, aren't you? Oh, I pity both of you. You could have lived in a new house, but now you're going to have to pay for the living expenses of 3 people with both your pension. I'm really sorry about that. What? Hey, Dave, what does she mean by that? You said you weren't going to collect a dime from us.
Well, that's...
Well then, it's no longer any of my business, so I'll be going now, if you'll excuse me. I left them happily after saying what I had to say. I had already made arrangements to move the next day. In fact, only my belongings were to be sent to my parents' house. I didn't want to give up my hope on my husband until the very end, but given the reality of the situation, I think it was the right thing to do. After that, my husband and in-laws must have understood the reality of living in the new house. They came back to me afterwards, but their idea still hasn't changed, and that they wanted to live together. There was no way I would accept that. But that is not the important thing. They actually ignored me by prioritizing their own desires, and they were just too selfish. Besides, because this was who I am, what I had decided on would never be swayed no matter what anyone said. In the end, the divorce took 6 months, but I managed to finalize it. After that, they seemed to have let go of the newly built property, and within 2 years of its completion, it was named as an auction property. I guess they couldn't pay the loan after all. It's only natural, isn't it? Because we had calculated the money with the premise of me living in the house. I work for a real estate company, so it is one of my daily routines to check the auction properties. I was thrilled to see the house was listed as on sale. I feel like I have finally settled my divorce. Now, I am building my own home. I'm single and own my own home, which seems like I'll be single for the rest of my life, but I'm completely fine with that. I'm very particular and stubborn at some things, so I'm sure that marriage will not work out for me. I will continue to enjoy being single. Good for her. If each person can live their life as they want, then they are happy. I hope you have a good time, Kelly. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in our next video.